Welcome everyone to AI in Action, how AI can power your ad campaigns. This is the second in our week-long series of AI in Action sessions. So go ahead and throw us forward one, Kevin. We had yesterday, if you're with us, we did Market Muse. So we had a lot of people on yesterday's call talking about AI's impact on SEO and content marketing, content strategy, content production. A really great session. Today, we've got AI advertising, Kevin Myers from AI Advertising. And then tomorrow, we'll wrap it up with Versado, how AI can motivate your customers to engage and act. This is part of Maycon. So if you're familiar with Marketing AI Conference, we were there August 3rd to the 5th, AI Advertising, one of our great sponsors. What we did is we launched this AI in Action series for people who couldn't be at the conference, but also as a complement to the conference, because what we found is for people to really understand AI, to develop a competency around it, not just comprehend, but competency, you have to see it at work and you have to see examples of it and then experience it yourself. And so the whole idea behind the AI in Action series is to give you that tangible example of what it is and how it works. And so you are here for an educational demo. The way we position it is like, you're gonna see a product. AI advertisers are gonna show you their product and talk about what it does, but in an effort to educate you on what AI is and what it's capable of doing. And so as you see these examples and you see the back end of the platform, you'll start to actually comprehend what AI is and what it is capable of doing for you. So thank you for being here. We have Victoria from the AI Advertising team. We have Kathy from the Marketing Institute team. They are here. If you need anything, hit them up in chat. They'll share links as relevant resources are talked about. They can help you with technical difficulties. Yes, you will get this on demand, slides and video. Probably, I think I don't know, Kathy can maybe shoot them in the chat, but this will become available in the next probably 72 hours. All 3 of these sessions will be available. Other than that, let's jump ahead. This is Kevin Myers. I am Paul Roetzer. If you don't know him, founder and CEO of the Institute. Kevin can tell us a little bit about himself and AI advertising as we're going. Real quick, I got 2 other slides. So one, if you missed Maycon, or even if you were there, you can actually get the 14 main stage sessions on demand now. So we took all of our keynotes and all of our key panels, like amazing panels on language AI and vision AI, and we bundled them into 14 on demand sessions. So that is available now to sort of extend your learning or get you started. And then at Maycon, we also introduced a new step-by-step learning journey called Piloting AI for Marketers. It's going to be a 17-course on-demand series launching in October. You can go learn more about that and pre-order that today. And with that, Kevin, welcome from Ohio State Stadium.
Yeah, I'm coming to you live, Paul, from the shoe for pregame starts today for the Notre Dame Ohio State game.
Oh, they play Notre Dame?
Yeah, it's a big game. And, I'm not smart enough to actually change the background during this. I just realized on the live. So I apologize to the audience if they're offended by seeing the shoe in the background. But, I'm passionate about that, but even more passionate about marketing, advertising, and engineering. I mean, that's my background. I'm an engineer by trade, but I found myself in a firm that's trying to bring the next level of technology to advertising. And we're doing it by harnessing AI and machine learning. Paul, the tour I'm going to take you on today and the rest of those joining us it is a sneak peek on this coming Wednesday, where we are launching our new brand and our new website. But today, Victoria and I made the decision, let's go ahead and do some of the imagery and the colors and that people see next week.
Nice.
It is a tour that begins with where we think, if anybody's ever heard of the term a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal from good to great. And a lot of people have heard of this quote, but they might not know where it came from. Half the money I spend on advertising is wasted, but the trouble is I don't know which half. I thought this was kind of a Madison Avenue, Mad Men days of, sitting having a bourbon and a cigarette at lunch and postulating on how you could solve that riddle or not. It's actually over 130 years old. John Wanamaker said this. John Wanamaker is really the person who is a pioneer in retail and advertising. So that which was Macy's was John Wanamaker's first retail store. And so he gets a department store and he's got to advertise. But he didn't know what worked and he didn't know what didn't work. And we look at this and we say, That's unconscionable. Here we are this much later, and we can't prove it with all of this tech. So, what are we really looking to do? It's related to actually the tenure of marketing leaders and CMOs. Unfortunately, they have the shortest tenure in the C-suite, and it's partly due to that problem. Walk into a room, and you're only as good as your last campaign, and when that happens, generally this is in your future. Um, I've been fortunate to have a long-term career in marketing, and I've been unfortunate to have this said to me as well. And part of it is that you just don't have the information that the CFO and the CEO demands, because I really don't care about the pretty pictures. I care about results. So, how did we get here? Well, part of it is that we weren't embracing all the tech that we could, because it's our contention that if you're in marketing and you're not intensely curious and embracing tech, then you may be, kind of the last picture. But this is probably the other part of the problem. And when I started looking at MarTech, and it wasn't that many years ago that there was only 500 logos on here. And you got 10,000 logos, and all the people on this webinar and all the marketing leaders. How do you navigate this? Now, there are some really meaningful point solutions across this ecosystem, but the systems themselves don't talk to each other. So that's why we created the campaign performance platform. And because we believe that the secret is in navigating across all of those systems that aren't going away. But how is it that we give the marketing leader, the agency, the CMO, their own private dashboard that navigates those same categories that were on the Martech? They should call it the Martech 10,000, I suppose, right now.
The
But
9622, I think, to be precise. It was like some crazy mid
they,
9000s number.
you mean they couldn't find a few more just to round it up to 10,000?
And it did start as, for anybody who doesn't know, it was like 2010 was the first one. It was like 167 or something like that. It was in the 1 to 200 range the first time they did it. Yes, it's become now.
In the venture capital market, this is where money's going.
Yeah.
Because the other part of this is that, you think about what a CEO's P&L looks like. Where are they putting most of their variable dollars? Marketing and advertising. What, 10%, 15, 20 in some cases?
Yeah.
You better be able to measure it. So this is, like I said, I've lived this as a CMO, and now I want to make sure that others don't hear those dreaded words. So the bubbles that we have here are slightly different, and they're only here because categorically, on the outside of these rails here, these are the things that customers deal with, whether or not the data's in their CRM, they're active in social media, they go direct to consumer through e-commerce, or kind of their general ledger ERP. Over on the left-hand side, they're activating campaigns through DSPs, earned media, their website, their accounting systems. Those are the core to what any business has. But they're all silos of information that aren't talking to each other easily. So you'll see when I show you the platform, we start on that outside ring, and we start onboarding all that data so that we can gain the insights from the outside rails, so that I can communicate internally whenever I'm using predictive analytics, content platform, personalization. Our system, Paul, is one that is really built, and this is the question that Victoria gave away the lead on. It's built on something that was centuries old. And are you familiar with the Euclidean algorithm?
No, but I'm intrigued. I mean, you know me too well, so
Yes.
hit me.
It's this is back in the time of Alexander the Great,
Okay.
331 BC, that there really wasn't such a thing as math. And they came up with the Euclidean elements, these things that were true, but were in isolation of each other.
Okay.
Euclidean algorithm postulated that the output of one is the input of the next. So I love that because today, you know what that is today in my terms? Workflow, workflow from what did I learn from this system that has to be used by this system and the next one and the next one. And then, of course, AI and machine learning turn it into a loop. Make sure that these things continue to learn from each other. So, while I'd love to tell you that this smaller eye chart is less intimidating, it really is a journey. I mean, so even with our current clients, we spend a lot of time learning what are their goals, what do they want to do, and then we have to navigate all the systems they have and apply the Euclidean algorithm. What is it in this system that I learned that should be important to the next system? So, another little clip from a movie. We also focus on sales. So, Glenn Ross, one of my favorite movies on who had the best leads that went to the sale, always be closing. This is a really fun scene from that. But here's the other misnomer about the past as it relates to always be closing and connecting all that data, all that information, is that we arrived at this thing called a funnel. And this is a funnel that a lot of people say, gosh, if I could just figure this out, you know, all of my budget to my impressions and reach, engagement, leads, and sales. The funny part about this funnel is I'd get fired if this was my funnel. If I'm spending that much on the top and the sales on the bottom are smaller. So in one way, it's actually should be inverted. How is it that my budget is leading to more impressions and reach and larger engagements and leads while they are will be smaller, as they go to sales? It's something that we like to think that you got to move beyond it. Now, this is in my time in selling pizza and cookies and ice cream. Um, this is kind of the vision that we have for the dashboard that will change the lives of marketing leaders everywhere. And that is I said you're only as good as your last campaign. Well, if you're looking at that campaign and you're walking into the C suite, which people visualize it, was it a TV commercial? Was it a digital ad? What was it? But more importantly, what did it lead to? So we're down the journey, Paul and team, to say that ad was from this marketing calendar, this campaign. So you're going to see, we're bringing back the power of a marketing calendar inside our platform. Because if we're not working on what's the calendar, what's the campaign, what's working, what's not, what's next, that's what's kind of over on the right. But through every campaign, you've got individual content pieces. Well, if one content piece is bigger, visualized, that means it's more successful. So click on it. The lower part of the panel, what were the sales related to that piece of content or that campaign? What channels was that campaign running on? All of them, omni, one or two? Am I winning in search and not social? And then most importantly, to where we start the Euclidean algorithm, what is the persona or the behaviors about the people and the group of people you're trying to influence? So these last two pieces, personas and the funnel, is something that I'll show you live in the system because this is kind of closing the loop of walking into the CFO or the CEO's office and they say, how are we doing? It's like, at what level do you want to know? Sales are up or sales are down, and here's why. Here's what's working and here's what's not. And we think that's the really important part of the journey. So we have built the campaign performance platform to really change the paradigm, to offer to the marketing leader, the CMO, a dashboard where they'll have confidence that they have the answer. But as we navigate this, and as you see, when we start onboarding, our platform it's platform as a service versus software as a service. We're not giving somebody a login and then saying, here, well, let me train you on how this works. We have managed services that go with our platform because there's a lot of work that goes on. And I'll show you in the platform the areas where our clients are logging in and the areas where our team are logging in. And that's because there's a lot of work to be done to move from what is the old way on the right to the new way on the left. Our platform is people, process, and tech. but the process part of this is important. And hopefully you'll get used to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that AI advertising brings to the equation, because we are wasting time and money because of that siloed data. Data's not talking to each other. There's no Euclidean algorithm going on. We lack a really keen understanding of our customers other than what they buy. So we know our customers by what they buy, but not who they are. We plan to change that for our clients, is to tell them behaviorally what makes them tick, what motivates them, what triggers them, of course, to buy from you. Design. We do not eliminate design or put a black box to automatically doing creative. We scale it. We make sure that design that used to be scaled in weeks or months because you had the next campaign to run can be otherwise done in days. We know the world's changing with whenever cookies go away and cross-device targeting. We believe there's a path to empower our clients to get to more information so that they know exactly who to target, how to target people that are in their database. And then the last piece of this is, here was the campaign, here was the creative. One of our clients, Paul, that we spoke with last time was Hope Cat, and we'll be bragging about their results here and again in a second. But the reason the entire initiative started with us is their executive leadership said, I don't take impressions to the bank. What were the sales? So that funnel better be connected on budget, investment, engagement, all the way to revenue. So
I go back real quick, Kevin. Like, I mean, I obviously ran a marketing agency and at the Institute, but I started in media buying actually in college. Like, we took media buying classes where we were doing what you're saying. Like, you're buying based on impressions and looking at different channels based on it. And then I did a bit of ad buying in our early days, and we spent more on the creative realm. So I think like one of the keys to this is, as you're here thinking about this, you may only do a piece of advertising, or maybe you control the budget that controls advertising and campaign performance. But there's so many aspects of what Kevin is talking about that were highly manual, highly inefficient, and often not even the right thing to be chasing. And that's the key, is like, we didn't know what was working. And even we were taught media buying, 2 decades ago for me, the fundamentals haven't actually changed that much outside of programmatic buying. Like, so it's just, I think it resonates for me personally, all the ways that AI can enhance what's being done in this industry.
And Paul, you and I shared and talked often about, AI is an enabler,
Yeah.
machine learning is an enabler, and we have to demystify it. And as best as I'm attempting to, is I believe AI will teach you what works, what doesn't, and recommend what's next. So those are the things that, as we start to grow our brand, we hope that really resonates, that when people think about the complexity of measuring everything, they'll think of AI advertising on, oh, those guys could help me figure that out. Because on the left side, Paul, the other thing that is a movement is getting to zero party data.
Yeah.
And for those that don't know, zero party data is not just, that I opted in, that's first party. We have permission to have a relationship. Zero party data is where I start telling you more about me. You're asking me questions to learn about me. And whether or not I'm a consumer or a business, I'm opting in to telling you more about what I want, need, desire. And that's the journey to zero party data. In the B2C world, loyalty is a really important element of that, the loyalty program. In a B2B world, account-based marketing. So, that's another acronym that people are chasing. But getting to know more about individuals is critical. And we help in that journey. And you'll see kind of how we help in the persona development. That's the next bullet down. And there's a lot of insights in data. And we go and grab those insights from all of the digital imprints that we leave across the world, from our phones, from the devices we use. And we have a platform that we believe is going to scale things in days versus weeks and months. Why is this important? Google says that your campaign starts to stale out at 11.4 days. And that's them looking at the whole ecosystem. That's not saying it doesn't work. That's just saying you're getting a little bit worse on the 12th day. And we as marketers live in the margins. So we got to get a little bit better every day. So if your creative's out there for 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, you're getting worse every day. So scale is really critical. And then activating omni-channel, we integrate with DSPs. We are not a DSP, but what we do is not only do we integrate to run the campaign, but we're on the other end getting all those metrics back into our platform so that we can measure everything. And that leads to that last point, connecting the dots between the budget, investment, the impressions, the engagement to what's actually running and working. Wrap it all together, and these are the pretty pictures around the platform. And you see that our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that you'll see inside of the platform is all about turning that data, onboarding it, getting the insights out of siloed data, turning it into personas, behaviors, and interests, so that you have key elements to create messaging that'll resonate with them. Again, we are not automating the creative, we're scaling it and making sure it's mapping to those interest triggers and behaviors. We activated omnichannel, and then we measure and give dashboards that you'll see in a moment here to prove what works. So here's kind of the three big ones, and I tried to go into our client base and say, what does that all look like? We are fortunate enough to have some hospitality clients. Desert Mountain is a 7-course mecca of golf out in Phoenix, Arizona. And when we met them, they did not have full membership. And so our journey was to make sure that we were, helping them put the right creative both in market and out of market, and measuring where to put those budgets, because it's tricky. Am I marketing to somebody in Chicago to go ahead and get a second home or move to Arizona, or are they people in Arizona that are going to go buy membership? Fortunately, over the past couple of years, we not only led them to full membership, but now they're building a pipeline of a wait list. And this is a very substantial revenue win for Desert Mountain. On an easier kind of scale, cookies, and that's the journey I'll be taking here in a moment when I do the platform. C. Kruger's is an online cookie company based out of Ohio. And when we met them, they are an upscale brand. They're a great cookie, direct to consumer. But they were marketing via discounts and free shipping. And so their basket size was not small, but it was not big enough to meet their goals. So the first KPI they were interested in is, how do I get a more profitable customer, a bigger order, a bigger basket size? So that was the problem we tuned into, and led them to a doubling of their basket size. And when you map that out over 5 years, that can increase your customer lifetime value of 10 times. So these are real revenue results in hospitality and direct to consumer. And then Paul, on our last webinar, we were fortunate enough to have Mike Colgazer from Whole Cat. He spoke eloquently on their journey, but the journey continues as their return on ad spend went from kind of 3 to 14 is what we're averaging. And we keep on winning deals based off of these. So we're integrating here in a B2C, in a B2B world with CRM, because we're building pipeline as well as connecting it to the actual revenue. So these are the successes that we've seen, and more to come on that as we get to know some of the people from this webinar. But what I'm going to do now is kind of escape out of here and show everybody the platform itself.
And as Kevin's pulling it up, just a quick reminder, yes, a few questions. People joined later, got sidetracked. In the middle, the webinar, the slides, and the presentation will be available on demand. So that's good. And then as Kevin's going through this, again, what you're going to see, if you missed the intros, AI in action, like actually what the title says. So what we want to see is, how does AI work? Which features within it? Because the whole platform isn't all based on AI today. what Kevin and his team are doing is a vision for building a smarter platform, a campaign management, a campaign performance, and ad platform that infuses AI feature by feature. And so it's like, as you're building this out, you're trying to build this smarter model. And so what we're going to do here is have him walk you through it, but also explain how is the AI working within here? Which features is AI built into, and how do we do it? And then how does he envision continuing to build this product out? And then hopefully you realize how much smarter you can make advertising. That's what you want the takeaway to be, is what is AI? What does it do? And how can I envision using this within my own company to build smarter ad programs? And get your questions ready, chat and Q&A. Like we'll have time for that.
And I think Victoria might hopefully put up a link in the chat window so that people follow along the Euclidean algorithm in action here. And so the reason why I'll keep referring back to that is that the platform has been built so that once we gain alignment with the client, and then we talked about onboard their data, develop personas, which leads to creative scale and recommendations, and so that we can activate the campaigns themselves, how are we measuring against them? Which one's working, what's not, what's next? And then finally, the performance. Once you're inside the platform, remember, this is one that we built that our clients will log into. Sorry, when our clients log into our platform, they get to see alignment, campaigns, and performance. Because the team at AiAdvertising are busy at work within data, personas, creative, and activation. So, but we're getting insights. As we expose more and more to our key clients, they're saying, hey, I'd like to see that. I'd like to use that. But today, when a client logs in, they see those three sections. There's within the platform where you see our logo. Those are areas where we're using the platform to do some discovery. And in this case, we get aligned on what is the KPI that's most important to our client. So beginning with the end in mind, is it return on ad spend? Or is it, I've got to acquire new customers? That's my number one. And what that does, it starts to set the stage for what people are going to see down here in performance. So, and it sets the stage for the project plan and everything we're building behind it. This is workflow. This is not AI. This is just organizing everything so that everybody knows what we're aligned on. We put together the project plan for our clients so that they can see, as we're navigating through this path, where are we in this journey? And you'll see that they follow the same elements of the software itself. But this is, just a general Gantt project plan. But we expose it to our clients so that who's due to do the next element. So notice that there's a whole lot of steps that are involved in every cycle, 21 of them to get aligned. When we start to onboard data, got a lot of meetings, a lot of conversations. When you get into persona development, this is where we really have to understand a client's brand and have internal meetings on, what's most important to you. But this is something that we expose to the clients so that once this process starts, they've got a general idea over the weeks and months to come, where are we in this process, so that when they click on the performance tab, they're going to see what works, what doesn't, and what's next. So we didn't reinvent project plans. We're just embedding them in the platform so that we can collaborate with our clients. The other thing we put in here is every presentation. And when we go and build a media plan or develop the personas, this is where our client will have the presentations, but we want them to be able to refer back to everything that we presented to them. So every presentation that is part of the journey is parked here as well. We've also been asked, and are going to deliver, is the recordings that go with this. Because a lot of times people will come back in and say, hey, those are great slides, but what did we say about them? So again, these are all in efforts to get aligned with our client. Then you move on to the data. And even a cookie company's got a lot of databases. They run their business on Shopify, but we're working with Google Analytics. They're email marketing with Klaviyo. They've got proprietary data. You see Google ads, Facebook ads, LinkedIn. Um, and these are, when you see it's active, green's good, gray, not so good. It's not that we're not connected. It's just that we're not turned on for doing the next measurement right now. So if I was running a dashboard, you'd see these things light up to green because they are persistent connections with a bunch of data silos. So this is, I can't click in here, but behind these sandboxes is the raw data. And this is, Paul, one of the first places where we're doing machine learning. Behind the scenes here, all of this is being poured into a data lake. And because we're putting into a lake, this is where we're tagging everything, tagging customers, tagging orders. We give it a taxonomy because the one thing you can't do in machine learning and AI is if the data can't talk to each other through some common data lake and data warehouse, you're not going to be able to get the insights you need out of it. And so behind the scenes here is the first element of machine learning within our data lake. We call it blending. But what we do is we put the tagging and the taxonomy behind all those data sources.
And just real quick, so for anyone who's, again, newer attendees, people who may have followed the Institute for a while, machine learning is literally just taking data and making predictions about outcomes. So the lake is just a place, a reservoir for all this data to go live. And then by tagging it, you can kind of tell the machine what it is and what it's related to. Those are like the inputs, and then the outputs are predictive models, making predictions about what's going to happen, what's going to perform. So machine learning is just simply the machine learning from data and making predictions what's going to happen next. And the more data you have, the more applicable machine learning becomes to what you're trying to do.
This is not useful for a marketer, but for all the geeks that might be joining us, including me. This is a visualization of that blending. This is what's happening behind the scenes. 10,000 contacts, 1,300 companies. This is for their B2B initiative. They sell direct to consumers. But we have applied 90,000 models to go, that's the equivalent of 12,000 man hours. This is what this is, machine learning. And what's it look like? This is, this is what the personas look like in a data clustering. The marketer's not going to be able to do anything with that, but data scientists know what to do with it. Demographic information, and then kind of what we use on the models. We marry Crossing the Chasm with Myers-Briggs and Big Five Ocean. That's how we start building our personas. But this is put in the platform really not for users to glean from, except our data scientists and our marketers. What we get back out of the system is the clustering of the data. So that data comes into buckets so that we start seeing what are the key phrases. We're using, um, oh gosh, I'm going to forget the acronym. Boy, senior moment.
I'm no help on this.
Natural language
Oh, there we
processing.
go.
Sorry.
I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
So
NLP. Yeah.
NLP, natural language processing, to go ahead and look at all the data that's around the brand and around the people, because what's happening whenever you onboard data, whether people like the movie The Social Network or not, when you're getting any content for free, you are the product. That means that you're leaving a digital imprint on the internet, whether it's your IP address or some hashed email that follows you or your device ID you're made. And that's trillions of data points about us as human beings. We protect PII. We never know it's Paul or Kevin, but we know what devices are doing. And devices give us insights into persuasion tactics and elements of brands and words that matter and scoring on them. All of these data points are so that we can develop what we call baseball cards, personas. Who is Sam Socialite versus Emily Innovation? And kind of what are the persuasion tactics? How big of a group within this cookie company is Emily? 23%. And then what is the narrative about Emily? So this is behind the scenes. Back up to our clients. That's where they're getting a presentation. And this is where we go ahead and show them all of the ways that we build these personas, the models we use, and then we tell them, here's about Sam. Here's how to persuade Sam. Here's the day in the life of Sam. It is very different from Emily and how big of an audience that is. So that's how we go from data to personas to be aligned back with the client on what does your data mean to you? How does this help the marketer? Helps the marketer because you got to know how to talk to people based on the way they feel, their behaviors, their interest. And so that's one of the most important. That's the starting point for our Euclidean algorithm from data to personas. We then next move to creative. And inside creative, we give a place where people can go ahead and upload their creative assets. And this is another area where the machine is learning. Where AI is being performed. Because once I start looking at all these assets, I want to find out what does the machine interpret that asset as. There are dominant colors here. There are absence or presence of people. There's an orientation and there's tags. Remember how I talked about that taxonomy? These are the tags that need to be applied to this image so that when I'm activating it, I'm measuring it based off of a person and a cookie and an event. So AI is reading the image and giving us this data to put into the cloud.
And I
So
think that's
that's
a real
another,
tangible thing that like marketers are just going to see everywhere. Like this is in Google Photos, in AWS if your photos are stored on Amazon, in your iPhone. I just had to my wife's grandma's having a 100th birthday this week, so I had to find pictures of her. Well, I've tagged her once in one photo in my photo album, and it found 187 photos of her from the last 20 years in my phone. So like this idea of image recognition and tagging, you're seeing it applied here into images used for ads, but that is an AI application that you are going to see everywhere. You will be using it all over the place as marketers. So again, just a very tangible example of AI ever present in our lives that's happening behind the scenes that you often don't even know is going on.
and well, that's an area that we build into our platform, Paul. As you know, we've integrated with other systems and best in breed applications to go ahead and do what do I do next to scale that creative?
Yeah.
So here we've embedded another AI package. And in this package, I've switched over from cookies to Caterpillar. So for the audience, you're not going to be looking at cookies here. And it's only because this was a really great example of back to our last webinar of what's happening to scale and look at the creative and analyze what's happening. So here are the ads that are running for Caterpillar, our client, Whole Cat, and it shows you kind of what's winning and what's not. But back to that dimensions that I was talking about a minute ago, through this use of AI, I can read what's actually working on the social networks. So what was the placement? What was the format? Was it a single image? What was the call to action? How much am I spending? And what are the results? Was there text overlay? Were there people present? How many faces were in it? So back to those dominant colors. There are colors that perform better based off of brands or time, and they trend. You need to know that. Emojis matter. Which emoji should I put in my headline or email? So these are all individual elements. It's done based off of images or video, and it even kind of drills into the content of what you're writing within these ads. So these are all data elements that from this other AI application, we pour back into the lake because these are critical elements to go ahead and analyze what's actually running. There's even ways to go ahead and predict what we should be running. So in this case, we'll go ahead and look at some, again, these are for backhoes and skid steers, not cookies. But what might I do to change up the ad copy, the image? So it'll show you all possible, and there's hundreds of varieties. This application here, or this part of the AI platform, is tapped into Facebook and Instagram, and it's measuring on behalf of thousands of clients, not just Caterpillar or C. Krugers, so that it can measure the impressions and trillions of data points. Again, another practical use of AI where we help the client figure out what ad to run next, but we're on the back end grabbing all that data and bringing it into the lake for measurement purposes.
And one of the nice things with this example is it's kind of an example you'll hear explainable AI. So they're surfacing for you, run this ad. This is the creative that will win, or this is the creative that's working. Then all that stuff he was scrolling through is sentiment. Are there people in it? What color? That's why the AI thinks it's winning. Like it's basically giving weights to what is it about this ad that it thinks is going to cause it to be the best performing ad. And it's pulling in all kinds of stuff that, again, no human can do it. Like this isn't a replacement to humans. This is enhancing the creative who make these decisions, which are often subjective. It's like, well, I like that image better. Like we're going to use that image. And I'm the one that's, running payroll. So I'm going to decide at the end of the day what image goes into it. But in this instance, you're bringing data to the table. And you're saying, but this is a really convincing argument why we should go this direction. So again, not replacing humans, enhancing what we're capable of doing from a creative perspective.
Data personas, creative and activation is what the services part of AI advertising are using and implementing every single day. I mentioned earlier that it's important to have a marketing calendar. Again, we didn't invent marketing calendars. We just want to expose them so that we're collaborating. And we do this not only for the campaigns that we're running, but we do it for the campaigns that the client is running within their own email platform, or they may be doing a print campaign. In the case of the cookie company, they do mailers. And when do they run the mailers? To whom? What's the audience? And then do we see an uplift on the website when that mailer arrives? So the calendar is a great use for any one of our clients, coming up on, what campaign we're in. You click on it, you can open up a media plan. You can open up the creative assets that are part of that calendar element. We also have the physical media plans in here, and I'll click through quickly because I don't want to expose anything I shouldn't. But here's where all the media is being run. It's on that calendar. So if I clicked on the campaign, you'd see the media run. And then we track where is that media running and where are we kind of month to date or kind of at the end of the campaign cycle. And I've just thrown up sample data here that when a client logs in, really the game is that which is in the performance part of the application. What do I expose whenever they log in? Do they care about drilling into the actual campaign that's running? Do they want to look at the channels that are working or the personas that are working? Or do they want to drill into any individual element of the campaign itself? So the welcome screen for our client is their window into the KPIs that matter most. So Paul, that's the tour of the application. And there's a whole lot of Euclidean that goes into this algorithm to keep the wheel and the circle going, whether or not you're selling skid steers or backhoes or delicious cookies.
Or real estate, as we actually have our first question I'll hit because it's a relevant foundation. What is DSP? So somebody asked, I'm a realtor. What is DSP?
Demand side platform.
I know Victoria just threw the definition in as well, but go ahead.
Yes. So this is the way that people can go ahead and do their buying. Right now, when you buy socially, a DSP is Facebook, where they help you go ahead and do all that buying. But then when you want to reach all the different places that aren't walled gardens like Facebook or LinkedIn, there are platforms. The Trade Desk is one of the biggest. That's where you can go buy ads on ESPN.com or ESPN Live or a local blog or website. So they inventory all the places you could put a digital ad, and we integrate to them. We are not one, we integrate to them.
All right. You probably stop share. We'll just go to the video and then we'll go. We got 12 minutes. So if anybody wants to stick around, we'll just kind of rapid fire through these. We've got a bunch of questions. If you have any more, throw them in chat or throw them in the Q&A. We'll keep an eye on those. Victoria, thank you. She was throwing up some answers as people were asking them in there. So let me just kind of scroll through these. We had one about different languages. So does it handle creative in different languages, or is that an integration you see coming down the line?
Yeah, presently we are US based.
Okay.
Uh, Caterpillar's a brand that is telling us they want to lead us to other parts of the world. So, but today it is a US based English. Now, we actually run Spanish, right? Because the it can read and work in Spanish language. We're just not operating outside the US. And part of that is because of the privacy laws. GDPR has a whole different set of standards. We follow them. California's got their own. We're sticking to the US right now, but our
Yeah.
clients are leading us outside.
And again, for people new to AI, translation is a very key aspect of language AI. And companies like Google, Meta have made massive leaps forward in translation technology. So that is something, if you're a marketer reaching multiple markets, there are going to be AI tools out there to help turn your creative into multilingual. And so yeah, sometimes there's these, you're gonna look for point solutions to do specific things, and that's probably gonna be one of them.
Paul, somebody had a question. I want to get ahead of it
Yeah.
too, because it's a good one. But is this fully developed or is it still in progress?
Yep. Couple of
Um,
questions like
yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah, we are absolutely still in progress by design.
Hmm.
It's partly by meeting Paul and actually the other members of the Institute, because we are looking to plug the best of solutions into one platform. So if you'll think back to that eye chart of the MarTech, nearly 10,000, um, the people that are the other members of the Institute, like a Prasado or
Hmm.
like Shutterstock AI, these are, it's always being developed, point solutions. What we believe our charter is to put it into one interface and to put all the data in a lake and measure what works, what doesn't, and what's next. So the point is, we are not done. We've built the platform to drop other solutions in that are unique or different in this evolving world of AI marketing and advertising. The other element that is fully functional, but the reason why we don't expose the whole full platform to our client is because we have managed services. A lot of this is complex. So some of it you saw in softwares and on the screen, but I've got data scientists and marketers and uh, behavioral psychologists on staff that are using the same system that you're going to benefit from. So that's why we like to call it a platform as a service versus software as a service, because it's not something that you can log in today and drive.
So talk about, it makes sense then to say, okay, so who is it a fit for? So, I mean, if I have a $5,000 a month ad spend, am I using a advertising platform, or is it 50K a month or more? And then is there, you sign up for the whole platform, or do I just I just want to do personas? So like, help our attendees figure out, is this even something worth exploring for them at this moment?
It's a great question. And the first thing is, if you don't have a customer base that exceeds kind of 10,000, contact. It may not all be customers. That would be, it's not enough data,
Okay.
because when we do our algorithms and the matching, 10,000, you match half of that and you segment it, you're getting into the hundreds versus the tens of thousands on your sample set. So we we think we do better work and the algorithms work better when you're in excess of 10,000 people in your CRM database or your collected database. On the other continuum, it matters how much you're advertising, because those impressions need to be in the hundreds of thousands and the millions of impressions, right? So we see better signals when a budget is at a minimum of about $20,000 per month in digital advertising.
Okay.
Um, and and that can be at social and search and programmatic, but north of that is more of a sweet spot for where we see better success.
And any industries in particular that you're seeing it work best? And it's a pretty diverse, even just the ones you showed today are three very different industries. So I assume it's kind of industry agnostic in that sense.
Yeah, we find ourselves currently in industrial equipment, distribution, fintech or financial services, hospitality, direct to consumer. So we haven't seen a difference, um, because people are people,
Yeah.
and we're in the business of trying to measure their uh, motivations and interest. So we're a bit eclectic in our customer base, and none really raising above the other, but we can work in B2B and B2C.
All right, and we'll probably take two, we'll do maybe two more questions here, three if they're short ones. So this is a smart question. With Google's increased use of AI within the ads platform, and again, it's everywhere within Google. There's nothing Google isn't doing that doesn't have AI infused in it. But within their ads platform in particular, do you foresee your solution to work in tandem or possibly against this AI, audiences, bid type, strategy, etc.? And do you have an idea of how this solution will adapt based on Google's AI changes? So we're all at the mercy of Google, whether it's SEO or whatever it is. So I think it's just, how do you look at what you're building in relation to how Google continues to innovate in this space and the impact it'll have on you and your clients?
A huge fan. We are a huge fan of what Google does, what Meta does, because they're building their own AI and a lot of sophistication that, quite frankly, I don't have the time or talent or money to go do what they're doing. However, what we peacefully coexist because we're getting the results out of what are otherwise walled gardens. So that which is happening in search or social or other spots, other programmatic ads places, we're bringing all those results into our data lake. And we believe what we're doing is accretive and better and more interesting to the marketer because we're looking at them across platform. So we love what they're doing. We use what they're doing, and then we get the results out of the actual campaign to see what's working best. So uh, the more AI, the better from our seat. Whether or not it's any of the partners that Paul has at the institute or any of the major players in advertising,
All right.
more is good.
Agreed. And we all just have to kind of live with the fact that Google's changes affect us, and there's nothing we can do about that. We talked about this on Market Muse yesterday with when Google changes their search algorithm. Like, what are you going to do? Like, we can't affect that, so we just have to accept that it's continually evolving and look for ways to adapt. All right, so we have 4 minutes left. Let's try and do this rapid fire because I got probably 4 quick ones we could tackle here.
Okay.
Easy one. Do you have any insurance or pharma clients? I saw Victoria already threw in an insurance one, but insurance and pharma? Practically use
Don't have pharma, have insurance.
Okay. Do you see this more as a tool for individual brands, businesses to utilize, or are you looking more at like an agency partner network that would use it for multiple clients, like a HubSpot, where they obviously have a partner ecosystem? So how do you see the growth of this, individual brands versus agencies?
We want to evolve to work and promote this to agencies. Today, we are working alongside agencies with all of our clients. We've been introduced to the brand directly, so we have a relationship with the brand directly. But the agencies come alongside because they're the ones that are doing the creative, doing the campaigns. So we believe our model will be agency focused in the future. We have agency friends today that are bringing us to other clients because what we do makes what they do better. But our most of our clients are brand direct right now.
Okay. You kind of touched on this a little bit, but I don't know if we answered this specifically. Are we allowed to use AI advertising outside of the US as a result of GDPR? Can the tool even be used for European
It's
audiences?
been built to work and it's GDPR compliant.
Okay.
We have not yet deployed anything outside the US.
Okay. And then creative, you're not doing any creative, like we're not actually building creative within the platform. You're using like a Pattern 89 kind of integration to assess creative. So there's still creative is a whole separate arm. It's not Adobe. You don't have Adobe within here where you're building stuff and things like that. Correct.
We do not. So the creatives that we work within our clients, we have the ability to do creative and kind of scale things through a great product like Celtra, that where you're building it once, sharing it everywhere. You mentioned a few. Shutterstock AI is going to bring a whole library of assets to the creative world. So we can help do it, but a lot of times our clients are doing it themselves or they have an agency partner. We think we make what they do better. And so we're bringing the machine to that creative process rather than replacing it.
All right. Well, we're almost there. I mean, thank you everyone for not only being here, but sticking around, asking a ton of great questions. I mean, there's probably 5 more I could get to here. But reach out to Victoria and Kevin if you have questions specific to their platform. They're a wonderful partner of ours. I'm really excited about what they're trying to build and what they've achieved already. So yeah, definitely check it out if it's a fit for you. Kevin, thank you as always. I love our conversations. I learn something every time we do this. Enjoy San Diego with your mom. I know
Yeah.
you're on a trip at San Diego, not at Ohio State. Enjoy the game. Enjoy San Diego. Any final
Paul,
words?
Don't ever forget now the Euclidean algorithm.
I got my homework tonight.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Well, thank you, Victoria and Kathy, for being with us as well and helping out. Kathy, I think you have the controls to end this thing. So I will just depart as Kevin and I depart. So thank you, everyone. We will hopefully see you tomorrow for the final AI in action with Persado. Thanks a lot.
Go Bucks.
All right. Bye, Kevin.